Where will the markets head? We'll take a look at Bitcoin. Is it up and to the right, or is it going to correct some? We'll also take a look at some altcoins and some meme tokens, I think, that will be interesting for you guys. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. Today's going to be a good one. I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Tangem. If you guys are looking at self-custody, you've got to go with a route that is, I think, this type of card and app combination for a self-custody wallet. And it's very easy to use and super secure. All you have to do is visit tangem.com. You can go over there. I've tested this in a variety of environments, for security. I've looked at it from ease of use, functionality. It's one of the best ones out there. There's a lot of good ones, but this is one of the best I like. Hit the Get Tangem right up there at the top right, and you'll be able to get to the 3-card set. That's the one I recommend. Use our link. It's going to get you going. Before we get started, I want to bring in, of course, Miss Jackie Dutton, co-hosting with me today. So great to see you, Jackie.
Yes, you too. Another Tech Path Tuesday. I'm here.
Let's do it.
I love it.
Let's do it. All right, a couple of stories I want to hit on, of course, has been Bitcoin's halving impact on the market supply. Let me zoom in on that for you a little bit. On the market supply and also the demand, because people have kind of looked at this as, all right, we now are in a completely different position. You have to think about Bitcoin maybe in a different way. A couple of things that you have to compare to, of course, the previous 3 halvings saw spot price move higher exponentially by about 50 to 100 days after the actual halving. So we saw a lot of sideways action and then, a little bit of uptrend. When you look at Bitcoin right now, from what you're hearing on the interwebs, on crypto Twitter, what has been the sentiment so far with the way people are looking at Bitcoin as it is right now post-halving?
My feed is full of the runes and ordinals and that conversation. And obviously that's actually more beneficial for miners. So it's possible that they're in as good, if not an even better position as they were before the halving took place. So I think, right now, as we see like some of that adoption, some of that hype, more people learn how to do it, how to get involved. A lot of people already have enough Bitcoin to just get involved in that. So I think we'll start to see a little more people, jumping on that bandwagon.
Well, we're gonna break down runes in a minute because that is one of the key indicators here, and it also kind of changes the dynamics. If you look at some of the past cycles with Bitcoin, and even in the bear market, we saw the success of ordinals has a lot of similar comparisons to what was happening then. In the article, it says risky geopolitical situation, markets response will provide critical insights into the viability and valuation of Bitcoin as digital gold. There's a lot of people still saying that, this is the new digital gold. We've got a lot of pressures, from a global and macroeconomic standpoint. And at the end of the day, it's just people saying, just buy Bitcoin, kind of put it over on the shelf and let it run. You look at Tom Lee, a couple of big Wall Street types that have picked Bitcoin to hit 150K before the end of the year. What's your response to that? Do you think people are a little crazy, or do you feel like, hey, this could actually make a run for it?
I think that's going to require the centralized exchanges to be a little more honest about exactly how much Bitcoin they have. We saw a few years back where all of a sudden we figured out, they're claiming that they have more Bitcoin than is truly in existence. So I actually think the centralized exchanges might have far less than they claim. And they've just taken advantage of everybody giving them their money.
Interesting. Wow. Well, that'll change things a little bit, especially when people go to sell, because that's going to be the big, those kinds of events are the ones when, guess what? Those exchanges are conveniently down. Conveniently down. Yeah, that's why self-custody, guys, self-custody, that's where you go. That way you know where the Bitcoin is. It's there. On chain. You've got your keys and you're in a good position. Here's Kyle Dupes coming over from Crypto Banner. He says Bitcoin's web traffic signals early stages with the retail interest on the horizon. A couple of points you look at here, if you kind of zoom in on this Google search, on the volume of the Bitcoin searches, and you can kind of see what happened in the 21 cycle, all the way back into the 17-18 cycle, and where those pumps were. Very similar to where we are right now, maybe in this early cycle of Bitcoin. So if retail hasn't made its way here, here's my question. Do you think that people will jump in onto Bitcoin directly, or do you think they're going to jump in on the meme products or possibly some of the altcoins right now? Because there's a lot more, meme products out there, projects themselves, and the altcoins have a lot more awareness, I think, this time around than maybe last time. What are your thoughts?
I believe that there's definitely a rule of large numbers when it comes to getting new people to come into the market. When they come in and they say, well, I could buy, 0.0001 Bitcoin, or I could buy 1,000 XRP or something. So I think seeing those new adopters and that new retail come in, you're going to lean more towards not necessarily the altcoins, but definitely a market where there's just more room to 10x. And you're earlier, essentially. So Bitcoin is kind of establishing itself more as like the tried and true, the OG, or, you just have a lot of money. And I think it is something that's great to accumulate when everything's down, but it's starting to diversify your portfolio as everything goes up to maximize all of your gains as the cycle continues and gets more and more bullish. I think that's always the better game plan.
Well, that's, this is one of the strategies I think our channel has been on, is even though we don't go all in on Bitcoin, we're looking for those, whether it's a layer 2 play, alternate layer 1s, or a lot of these, blue chip altcoins. And then we dive into new emerging tech and the meme coins. You look at what's happening on traditional exchanges, and we'll use Robinhood as an example. I've got a clip I want to play for you from their head of strategy talking about what is going to happen. Or I should say, what might happen with some of the retail traders. Listen in.
3 straight weeks of losses for the S&P 500. We haven't seen that in quite a while. And with that in mind, heading into, again, the busiest week of earnings this season, even if we get really strong earnings, is that enough to rescue the rally? How are those two dynamics going to play out?
Yeah, I think it's tougher. I mean, the market's at the end of the day is going to be driven by earnings. And if earnings can continue to outperform higher expectations, which I think earnings expectations for the full year are still a little high, of course, we can have that.
But you have a really unique seat, of course, at Robinhood. You have a lot of visibility on what people are actually doing on the platform. So what have you seen among the retail investors on Robinhood over this 3-week-long sell-off?
Well, we definitely see our customers keeping a part of their money in cash, like for sure. We offer good rates just like a lot of places out there. But when it comes to investing, we actually see a lot of our customers, they add to things that go down, and then they trim some things that go up. So, for example, Tesla's been having a rough run, and they have been adding to those positions. And then you've seen, things that have been doing a little bit better more recently, and they've been cutting those positions. And that's really no different than, kind of long-term investors tend to do.
I think everybody has kind of been on that, and whether you're a crypto trader or not, that's pretty good cycles. I was surprised she revealed some of the fact that there's a lot of cash on the sidelines, even within Robinhood. So if that is the case, and I'm looking at Tesla right now trading at 145, I mean, look at this downward trend we've seen on Tesla. This could be one of those, along with many other projects out there. There's a lot in the crypto space that also kind of have some of these mirrors that have some opportunities. Do you think there's that much cash on the sideline, or do you think this is still people not ready to jump into crypto and altcoins, meme coins, et cetera?
Currently, the way that the economy is, I just don't know a lot of people with a lot of cash hanging out, especially somebody who would use Robinhood. Do I think they're doing it on maybe TD Ameritrade and it's like older people who've retired? Yeah. Probably. I think a lot of people have gone to cash, but that just sounds like such a double-edged sword right now. It's like lose money in inflation or keep it in something like Tesla and watch it go down. Yeah. I don't know. It's terrible either way.
Well, and we've seen different risk factors out there. I mean, now I saw a stat the other day that people in the U.S. had this affinity toward just scratch off and gambling as much because of the fact that we've seen so much pressure on top line inflation and continuing versus maybe just going into, some of the projects that we've seen and talked about here on the show. We'll talk about a little bit in the sense of Avalanche, maybe Solana, but that have had mostly upside trend. Now, it doesn't mean that if you went in today because of the pricing, that's where you would be. But I want to get into ETFs a little bit, Jackie, when you look at where the cycle of major investment is going to come from in this round. Many people would look and say, well, it's not going to necessarily be the Wall Street bets types. It's probably not going to be the crypto natives like us, there's either going to be new retail or there's going to be big money coming in from boomers. Here's Eric Balchunas talking a little bit about that. Listen in.
One good news, though, is GBTC's outflows continue to get lower. So they're now in the double digits.
That's the grayscale?
Yeah, the grayscale Bitcoin Trust. GBTC seeing less and less is a good sign, but the 9 new ones have also seen less and less inflows. So we're kind of at this sort of, like I said, it's just sort of a breather. And that makes sense. You know, ETF flows for something like that would be hot sauce like this tend to be somewhat correlated with price. But there's some catalysts coming up. I think a large chunk of advisors haven't even looked at this yet. They like to wait a couple months. The wirehouses, they're not really able to solicit them yet. So, and you got no options on them yet. That could come down the road. So there's some good optimistic catalysts, but of course, Bitcoin's price can do crazy things, and that's a huge variable.
Is BlackRock just going to own this space too?
Yeah, I mean, I just tweeted today, they've now seen 69 straight days of inflows. Basically, right out of the gate, flows every day. That's basically in the top 10 all time. And it's the most highest streak of any ETF by far that's active right now. So they're loving it. Out of those 1,000 ETFs in the world, IBIT accounts for 24% of all their net flows this year.
Wow. Well, you know, there's a generational thing going on here. Do you notice this, Paul? On the other side, Balchunas and Lisa, they're like incredibly cut and chiseled.
Yeah, exactly.
You and I can barely keep in this.
So you have the old dogs saying, hey, it's a generational wealth issue. Eventually, are they going to, do you think they catch up here? I'm just kind of curious. From your opinion, you look at investors, it's not typically shown on crypto Twitter, which is kind of where we live, but what are your thoughts? Do you think the, you know, kind of the generational wealth starts to come in this cycle?
I think if they continue to lose money in blue chip things like Tesla, yeah, I think they see maybe, some of the stability in Bitcoin. You have something like BlackRock that's, you know, put their faith in it. And then I think the influx of the Wall Street Bets crew with the options, being able to gamble on that, that's their favorite thing. Yeah. So I think the influx of options will also see, you know, a massive uptick in that energy, that Wall Street Bets energy.
Yeah. Well, I think it also, to your point, is when you look at the Mag 7, the Magnificent 7, which has been now dwindled down to maybe the Magnificent 3 or 4, you know, on the S&P 500, which really represent most of the gains when you look at, we showed this in a video earlier this week. To your point, is that the performance eventually is going to get fatigued, and they're just going to simply say, listen, this crypto market seems to be heating up. It's time. Maybe now is the time. I'm going to go ahead and bet on the ETF, and then I'm going to go dabble a little bit over here on some Ethereum and start getting my beak wet there. Here's TED Talk Macro. He's talking about the market has gifted us with a beautiful reset. This is trader positioning for Bitcoin. Weighted funding turned negative for the first time since October 2023. That was, of course, before Bitcoin running from 27 to 46 without any meaningful dip. Here's my point. Do you think we'll get another shot at a dip like what we're in right now? Even though some would say, hey, we're already starting upwards, do you think Bitcoin comes back down into that 60K mark?
Isn't the May month called Go Away May as far as the markets are concerned? Yeah. I think notoriously that's a little rough. Go away.
Yeah, sell and may go away.
So I think maybe we see a little dip in May.
All right, well, here we are. We're just around the corner. We'll see if we do get that. Ethereum price prediction, buy or sell this summer. Many people are asking that question. A couple of points in this article right here. Recent price, I wouldn't say troubles, but ETH has been a little bit sluggish. And everybody would agree with that. But overall, I'm still bullish on ETH, and I'm definitely bullish on ETH's ecosystem. But some other things that they went to was that ETH's daily active addresses fell a little bit, 22%. This led to a little bit of fall in the network's daily transaction count. That's not good news. But then again, you also have just what's happening within the ecosystem itself. And then, of course, remember, this thing peaked at about 1.3 million on the 12th, which initiated the decline. Now, ETH exchange hands at 3173, impacted by general market decline in the last month. So, I don't know. I think ETH is going to move a little bit slower, and then it's just going to rip a face off. And somebody's going to go, what? How did that happen? Well, that's how altcoins work. Do you like ETH as a core altcoin or layer one in this run?
I love ETH. I have a good bit of ETH. I also, it's like living in New York. It's like living in LA. People bitch about it being expensive, but they all want to be there, and they all vacation, and they all go there. So I think ETH is still a place to be.
Hey, Solana, the price prediction rallied. We got people now seeing that past 150. We talked about 160. Looks like it might touch it today if we continue on this trend. But do we get back to that all-time high? And I'll show the chart here in a second. This is still 11% down in the 30. So remember, we had a 600% rise in the year because that thing came in from $8 back in January of 23. And then the chart is definitely in a good place right now. If you look at this, this is a very healthy looking chart. And you look at the current price of Solana. Let me jump over to a tab here. We'll just jump up to the Solana token real quick. And Jackie, if you look at that, I mean, because remember, we had that high right there at 202. We've slid down. Let me see how much was that down off that high right there. So we slid down. If you did get the entry at about 130, that was a 34, almost 35% correction in the market. And then now we're setting on bouncing off of that resistance at about 130 back up here to 157. And that's, of course, another 20% correction upward. Do you like Solana to continue its uptrend right now, or do you feel like this might kind of go sideways?
I can see it easily getting up to 170 again before maybe, running out of a little gas, but I don't know if we're going to see 130 again until after the cycle. I think this has a lot of room. It's just gotten so much attention. It's too easy on the Phantom wallet to get a hold of.
Well, and it's one of those things I think a lot of people have not realized. If they're brand new to crypto, then they realize, oh, wait a minute, there's this whole ecosystem of tokens I can get over here within the Solana. And then the light bulbs start going off. And then they start hunting for them because I'm getting, text and phone calls now. What's the next, meme token or the next project that's releasing? Or tell me about Jupiter Exchange for the first time. They're kind of talking about that. So that in itself, speaking of Jupiter Exchange, let me kind of go to this tweet right here. Jupiter Exchange has announced that their Jupiter mobile app, so this is basically going to be a DeFi exchange app to where you're going to get, one-click purchasing. I mean, this is going to make it pretty easy. Do you think people will jump on this? What are your thoughts?
This was what we talked about last week. When you make the tech easy, you have more normies willing to jump in. Most people can barely operate the TV to their TV remote or their phone. So the second you add something as easy as their regular banking app or even simpler, I think you see much further mass adoption.
Yeah. So Coinbase says, hey, wait a minute, don't leave us out. We're also giving you the Solana chain now. So you can get your DeFi on with us over at the Coinbase wallet. So everybody fighting for a little bit of Solana juice right now. What do you think? Who wins this war? Is it Phantom? Do we get a Coinbase wallet? Jupiter Exchange comes in with an app? I mean, what do you think?
Unfortunately, I do think Coinbase is just going to win just because it's so, it's just connected.
So
it's a trusted name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you on that.
I mean, Phantom's going to put up a real good fight. I promise.
This is like Internet Explorer and Netscape right now. Is what it really you get that struggle that seems to be happening for sure. All right, I want to get into runes because this is something that people have talked about in the comments a little bit. You've got the largest Bitcoin mining company now by hash rate is now an ordinals company. Okay, so this is going to be interesting overall. And I wanted to show a tweet you put up, and this was one right here. Confession: haven't bought any runes. I respect the tech. Not a hill I'll die on, but the mass adoption will only come when easy UX UI. We talked about this before. Explain runes to our audience in a simple, easy way and why it has such a potential opportunity on Bitcoin.
I heard it last week called shitcoins for Bitcoin. And I just feel like that's a great, simple starting point for everybody. And then more complexity that you get into with the etching and how you inscribe something on the blockchain. I mean, it's something like a cross between shitcoins and data storage that's specifically on the blockchain.
Well,
so
and there's a lot of people that are moving on this because this is an opportunity, I think, with Bitcoin. If we do, much like ordinals, if you listen and watch what's happening within that developer community, this could be an intriguing, phase for Bitcoin, and especially if we get into a soft fork, because that's something I think that obviously we'll see. All right, Jackie, any other token that you're kind of keeping an eye on or watching right now?
Oh, definitely the Ton ecosystem and the not Inu. Yeah.
All right. Okay, there you heard it. Always good having you on the show. Thanks a lot for stopping in, Jackie.
Thanks, guys.
You bet. All right, you guys tuned in on the podcast side of things. Man, you just missed a bunch over here on the YouTube channel. Make sure and come over here, hit subscribe. And all you have to do is also take part in the PBN community, and that is jump in the Diamond Circle. It's another great place to get additional content. Reach me out there on X, just at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.